Welcome to E-Bible Fellowship's Evening Bible Studies with your host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann. For more studies, visit our website at www.ebiblefellowship.org. And now, here's Chris McCann.
Good evening and welcome to E-Bible Fellowship's Bible study in the book of Genesis. Tonight is study number 2 in Genesis chapter 39, and I'll read the first few verses, beginning in verse 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And Jehovah was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that Jehovah was with him, that Jehovah made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him. And he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, that Jehovah blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of Jehovah was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. Okay, we're continuing to take a look at this introduction to chapter 39 and the beginning of Joseph's stay in Egypt. And we know that Joseph is going to remain in Egypt for the rest of his life, and he will not come out of Egypt for good until the Exodus in the time of Moses. After 430 years, then the Israelites will carry out Joseph's bones. That is when he will depart from Egypt. So he's now coming into this strange land as the Ishmaelite traders have bought him from his own brothers and sold him in turn to this great man of Egypt, Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard. Now, you know, the phrase or the title, captain of the guard, is found actually sizable number of times in the Bible. For instance, if we go to Jeremiah chapter 52, we'll read of Nebuzaradan, who is captain of the guard under King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Babylonians. And we read in Jeremiah 52, starting in verse 12, it says, Now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem, and burned the house of Jehovah, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men burned he with fire, and all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the captain of the guard brake down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive certain of the poor of the people, and of the residue of the people that remained in the city, and those that fell away, that fell to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the multitude. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left certain of the poor of the land for vine dressers and for husbandmen. And I'll stop reading there. We would read reference to the captain of the guard, I think, 4 more times. He's called that 8 times in this chapter, 8 times in Jeremiah 52. And overall, when you look up Nebuzaradan, this captain of the Babylonian guard under Nebuchadnezzar, I believe you'll find this phrase, captain of the guard, used 23 times. Now that's not in just one chapter. That would be including 2 Kings chapter 25 that would give a similar account as here in Jeremiah 52. It's including some other references in the book of Jeremiah. And, as far as my count is concerned, with all the references in the various chapters and books, it totals 23. And just to go to another place, let's go to Jeremiah 40. And we'll see the captain of the guard in his dialogue with Jeremiah the prophet. In Jeremiah 40, beginning in verse 1, the word that came to Jeremiah from Jehovah, after that Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had let him go from Ramah, when he had taken him, being bound in chains, among all that were carried away captive of Jerusalem and Judah, which were carried away captive unto Babylon. And the captain of the guard took Jeremiah, and said unto him, Jehovah thy God hath pronounced this evil upon this place. Now Jehovah hath brought it, and done according as he hath done, because ye have sinned against Jehovah, and have not obeyed his voice. Therefore this thing is come upon you. And now, behold, I loose thee this day from the chains which were upon thine hand. If it seem good unto thee to come with me into Babylon, come, and I will look well unto thee. But if it seem ill unto thee to come with me into Babylon, forbear. Behold, all the land is before thee. Whither it seemeth good and convenient for thee to go, thither go. Now while he was not yet gone back, he said, Go back also to Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, whom the king of Babylon hath made governor over the cities of Judah, and dwell with him among the people, or go wheresoever it seemeth convenient unto thee to go. So the captain of the guard gave him victuals and a reward, and let him go. Then went Jeremiah unto Gedaliah the son of Ahikam to Mizpah, and dwelt with him among the people that were left in the land. We can see how well the captain of the guard treats Jeremiah with great respect and a very dignified way, and in an honorable way. And also, it's a little amazing that the captain of the guard, this Nebuzaradan, said to him that Jehovah thy God pronounced this evil upon this place. And now Jehovah had brought it and done according as he has said, because ye have sinned against Jehovah and have not obeyed his voice. Therefore this thing has come upon you. That's coming from the mouth of this Nebuzaradan. And we know that Nebuchadnezzar was called God's servant. He was called God's servant, and this captain of the guard is Nebuchadnezzar's servant. So he also would be in the role of serving God in destroying Jerusalem and destroying the land of Judah. And remember, this captain of the guard is the one who burned the house of Jehovah. We read that in Jeremiah 52 in verses 12 and 13. Came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem, and burned the house of Jehovah and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men burned he with fire, and all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the captain of the guard break down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. That is picturing the judgment of God upon the churches and congregations of the world. And Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, is the one who lit the fire to burn down the house of God, certainly fulfilling the will of God to bring judgment historically upon his people Israel, and spiritually pointing to the judgment of God upon his people or professed people within the churches and congregations. And it's just kind of interesting how much Nebuzaradan understood for the reason behind Israel or Judah's destruction, and the reason that they were victorious. The Babylonians were able to conquer Judah and destroy Jerusalem was because of the evil that the Jews had committed in their transgressing the law of God. So just a little insight. We're given a glimpse into what was in the minds of the Babylonians, or at least their rulership, as he carried this out. Well, okay, so going back to Genesis 39, Joseph was brought down to Egypt, verse 1, Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian. Now, I want to say one more thing about captain of the guard, but first, keep in mind, an Egyptian, that reference can relate or tie in to Moses. Moses was called an Egyptian in Exodus 2, in verse 19, when he had delivered the daughters of Reuel from some herders. And it says in Exodus 2:19, they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. And Moses, called an Egyptian because he was raised as an Egyptian, but actually was a Jew. And it could be said of the Lord Jesus Christ that Christ is as an Egyptian. Remember when the Lord is born and he's taken to Egypt in the gospel account, and God says, I have called my son out of Egypt. So there's that figure that could be in view, and it's just something to keep in mind when we're looking to Potiphar. He's an Egyptian, but that don't allow that to rule out the possibility of who he may represent. Okay, going back to captain of the guard, and this word guard, the Hebrew word translated as guard, is Strong's number 2876. It has the same consonants as Strong's 2873. Now, as far as the vowel points, they're switched around for the strong A and the weaker A sound with one word, and the placement of those two vowel points are just shifted. But of course, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That was the vowel points are inserted by the Masoretes, have nothing to do with the inspired word of God. They're simply there for a practical purpose, as the Masoretes were concerned about the proper pronunciation of the Hebrew language due to the scattering of the Jews over the many centuries of the New Testament era. And so well after the Bible is completed, between the 6th and 10th centuries, the Masoretes are scribes who are simply taking transcript or a written document, the Hebrew text, and they come up with the idea, let's insert vowel points because this Hebrew text will be spread around to synagogues in all the nations, and the Jews there will be helped in pronouncing the words. That's it. That's it. That's the sum total of the importance of the vowel points. They can help you pronounce the words, but we're not interested in pronouncing the words. We're interested in reading the words and learning what they mean spiritually. And so what we find is oftentimes the vowel points hinder us from finding the spiritual meaning. So we have to set them aside. And so with the word guard, 2876 in Strong's Concordance in the Hebrew, it's the identical word to this word 2873. Once you set aside the vowel points, and it's a little surprising because 2873 is a word that means to kill. It has to do with killing. It is the word found in Exodus 22, verse 1. If a man steal an ox or a sheep and kill it, that's the word, kill. That is this word translated guard. Or in 1 Samuel 25, verse 11, 1 Samuel 25:11, it says, shall I then take my bread and my water and my flesh that I have killed for my shearers and give it unto men whom I know not whence they be? The word killed. And in these two cases, it was killing an animal. And by the way, this word translated guard is translated as cook. It's translated as cook twice. Also in 1 Samuel, if we go back to 1 Samuel chapter 9, 1 Samuel 9 and verses 23 and 24, and Samuel said unto the cook, that's our word. Then this is not 2873 that we were just seeing was translated as killed. This is 2876, the very same Strong's identification number as guard. Samuel said unto the cook, bring the portion which I gave thee, of which I said unto thee, set it by thee. And the cook took up the shoulder and that which was upon it and set it before Saul. Okay, taking up the shoulder, it means a portion of an animal, and we can see the relationship between cooking an animal, and in those days they would go out back and slay the kid, kill the kid, and then bring it in to cook it. So there's a definite relationship between killing the animal and cooking the animal. And so this word is translated that way. In Proverbs 9:2, this is going back to Strong's 2873. Proverbs 9, verse 2 says, she has killed her beast, that is wisdom. And the word killed is the same word. Also in Psalm 37, verse 14, we read there, Psalm 37 and verse 14, the wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy and to slay such as be of upright conversation. It's the word slay. Jeremiah 25, verse 34. And there it is translated as slaughter. How ye shepherds, and cry and wallow yourselves in the ashes, ye principal of the flock, for the days of your slaughter and of your dispersions are accomplished. And also in Jeremiah 51, in verse 40, Jeremiah 51:40 says, I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with he-goats. Okay, now if we were to bring that understanding back to the word guard, well, then it would not be captain of the guard, Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the slaughter, captain of slaying. And that's because as an officer of Pharaoh, especially having to do with these very powerful prisoners like the butler and the baker, what tends to happen to these type of prisoners? Well, we know, based on what we'll read in chapter 40, when Joseph interprets the dream of the butler and the baker, the butler, Pharaoh restores to his position. The baker, Pharaoh executes. And we read in Genesis 40, in verse 20, and it came to pass the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants, and he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand, but he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. It could very well be that it was Potiphar who came that day, opened up the cell, and signaled for the chief baker, "Come with me," and then they publicly hanged him or executed him. He killed him. That would certainly be part of his job description. I think we can understand that.
Thank you for joining us for eBible Fellowship's Evening Bible Studies with your host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann. For more studies and information, visit our website at www.ebiblefellowship.org. Until our next Bible study, may the Lord's perfect will be done.